All right, welcome everybody. Whoa, got some feedback there on someone. All right, welcome everybody to episode 212, the episode where Hernan tries to make me pull my ears off of my head from the feedback loop. But no, welcome everybody. Today's the 28th. We just wrapped up Thanksgiving last week and a bunch of kick-ass sales. I'm happy to say that ours was pretty awesome. We had a lot of people really taking advantage of a lot of the dump-free services. We had some local Lease Pro people who hopped in and joined. Or rather joined local Lease Pro. And then just as always, it's fun to check out how people are positioning offers, what they're being offered. So I'm just curious if anyone's watching right now, just pop on the page what you bought for kind of the Black Friday weekend, any awesome deals that you came across. Let's see. Before we go any deeper, I do want to stop and say hello to everybody who's here real quick. We got almost the full team here. So I'm going to go left to right on my screen and start with Mr. Feedback himself, Hernan. How you doing, man?
I changed the mic, man, so you don't complain. I'm doing great. I'm doing amazingly well. I'm super excited for today. Thank you guys for the support. It's been awesome. Thank you so much for the support that you have been giving to Semantic Mastery and MGYB, the co throughout Black Friday and Cyber Monday. So yeah, I just wanted to thank you guys for that. So
I'm curious, what you got some crazy looking glasses going on. What's up with those?
This is a blue light blocking glasses, and then I have my Aura ring right now, so I'm full on biohacking.
Yeah, you're gonna be a cyborg in like 2 years.
Yeah, in 2 years I'm gonna have like a mechanical arm or something.
Hey, I've got some cool glasses too.
There you go.
I still have those from Halloween.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
That's it. That's how you like hop on consultation calls and put those on.
So. Well, just so you guys know, when I'm not on a webinar, these are my standard glasses. I only wear these glasses when I'm on camera.
Yeah. Oh my God. I'm moving right along. Marco, how you doing, man?
Good, man. Let me start it off by saying that and Hernan, I'm going to put you on the spot because Hernan made an awesome donation to the charity. I'm not going to say how much because it should be kept, you know, it's what he did, is what came out of his heart. But it was extremely generous, and it's going to go a long way towards getting a lot of kids into school, getting them uniforms and books and supplies and shoes and everything they need. So, dude, thanks a ton. That's going to be my intro for today. Just thank you very much. And a lot of other people donated also. So thank you. I'm going to go ahead and post the donation, and we'll talk about it in a little bit, but I'll post the link if you guys want to donate. You're more than welcome.
Awesome. Yeah, and there's going to be some good stuff with that. We'll circle back on that in a minute, Marco. Bradley, how you doing? Besides your fabulous glasses, what else is going on with you?
I'm good, man. Been really busy. Got a lot of cool stuff going on with the local GMB Pro stuff that we're doing, or excuse me, local GMB stuff. Kind of incorporates local Lease Pro and local GMB Pro and just everything. Local PR Pro. But got all the processes updated and developed for some of the changes that have occurred over the last couple of weeks. And I got my VA just kicking ass now. He's still in training, but he starts actually training another VA on Monday next week. And we were conversing about it today in Slack, and he was talking about how he expects to be able to complete one GMB asset from start to finish. He can do it in about 3 hours, minus the last two processes, which can actually be outsourced to another VA because it's tedious. It can be done by a lower paid VA. Something that's just repetitive. But that's amazing because my original goal for him was to have him develop or complete, optimize, soup to nuts, complete one GMB asset in an 8-hour day. And he's already told me that, he's essentially can get it done in 3. If those last two processes are included, it'll take him 5. So I'm going to pull those last two processes off of him and assign them to another VA that will be their only job function, is to do those two things. And that way he can complete 2 assets in an 8-hour period. The main VA that's doing this right now. So he's going to start training somebody next week. Anyways, it's awesome because we're going to be able to start cranking these things out really quickly. And then once she's trained, our next VA, who's starting next Monday, she's been with me for 3 years, but she's going to start this new process. Then we're going to start training another one and then another one. And if we can get our VAs producing 2 assets a day, that's 10 a week, man. That's amazing. Imagine what we can do with that. And we're going to be providing this as a done-for-you service inside of MGYB once we get a few more VAs trained. Right now, the VAs are going to be developing or just building out assets for us, for our agency. But once we get a couple more, then we're going to be able to provide that as a service for you guys. Last thing I want to mention about that is we got local Lease Pro update webinar. We talked about it on Tuesday, guys. I don't remember. I don't see it in the calendar though. I don't remember.
No, I think we're gonna say the 17th though. Was that? Let me look.
That sounds right, but I didn't. I looked for it in the calendar and I didn't see it. So
yeah, let's just say it's coming up, and it'll be it'll be before Christmas in the second half of the month.
Yeah, so it's going to be somewhere in the middle of December, but it'll be even though some of you might not have local Lease Pro, I'm going to make that update webinar public, so everybody can attend, and I would highly recommend that you do, because I'm going to be sharing some information about our updated location research process, where we're finding just absolutely an incredible amount of opportunity right now. So I'm going to be covering that. I'm also going to be covering some of the updates on how to do service area businesses inside of GMB. And I'm going to make, like I said, guys, it'll be 100% public. It'll only be public for like 24 hours, maybe 48 hours. And then we're going to, the only people that'll be able to access it are those that are inside the local Lease Pro course, or that are in the MasterMind. So I would highly recommend that you make the public webinar if you don't have the courses, if you don't have the course. And then lastly, one other thing is I'm going to finally do an update webinar for Syndication Academy. I want to apologize that we haven't had a webinar in 3 months now. I was unaware. I knew that Rob was going to take over that. Rob Beal was from me to free me up to work on developing these processes and stuff out for the local lead gen building, asset building. But he's got a shit ton on his plate too. Plus, he still has a job. So he got overwhelmed with it, and it really kind of fell through the cracks. And so we haven't had a webinar in 3 months. I apologize for that, guys. By the time we actually have the next one, it will have been 4 months. I've got that scheduled now for December 12th. Those of you that are in Syndication Academy, be there, because I feel bad, and I want to kind of redeem Semantic Mastery for dropping the ball on that. I'm going to host a really, really powerful webinar. I'm not even going to tell Marco what it's about yet, because I don't want to get in trouble. But just make sure you're there on the 12th, okay?
I was going to say too, with that, everyone, we're going to be switching that over to more of a on-demand type of updates, where as things come up, because right now there's so much in there that, it's not always, hey, every month there's something we have to add. So we're going to be moving towards, hey, as updates are needed, we can get in there, update processes and whatnot.
Yeah, I think what we'll probably do is have scheduled quarterly updates, so every 3 months. But if something comes up, obviously, that needs to be addressed, we'll have an additional webinar. Cool.
Well, real quick, I wanted to touch on a few bases before we got two major topics we want to tell everyone about, and that has to do well, we'll get to that. I'll just tease it in a horribly poor manner. But if you're new to Semantic Mastery, first of all, thanks for watching. If you're wondering where to start, this is the place to start. Come to Hump Day Hangouts, ask us questions. Get your answers. It can be digital marketing, it can be anything. If we don't know the answer, we'll do our damnedest to point you in the right direction. And while you're at it, pick up the battle plan. All right, it's battleplan.semanticmastery.com. All right, it's our processes, what we use when we need to do something. Here's the process we use. All right. And if you feel like you're beyond that, you're ready to take things up several notches, come join our mastermind. Brett, you've already heard Bradley talking about that. And I'm going to kind of segue into something we wanted to share with you guys. We might have mentioned it before, but we do a small group mastermind. So mastermind's a lot of people. But within that, every quarter, we group people up if they want to and get them into groups of roughly 4 to 6 people. And, we group it by kind of what your interests are. Are you doing more, obviously, local digital marketing is our strong point, but there's some people doing, maybe they do that, but then they have affiliate marketing. So we group people up. And this is really powerful, because not only do we participate in them from time to time, I haven't this quarter, but Marco, I believe you're in a group this quarter, right?
We got an awesome group, man. And, we cover a bunch of things that aren't generally covered in the mastermind, simply because you just can't. Yeah. Right? You can't focus on the needs of 3 or 4 people when you're really talking to a whole group of people. But in these small masterminds, the great thing is that I got a couple of people who went to Hopeful Live, and one person, who is really eager to get going, to get crushing it. And he's just doing a whole lot of things. And as a matter of fact, I think he's the one who shared the Ghost browser video today in the mastermind.
John.
So now, so he's contributing. And so this is what happens. So you give, and I don't know if people are aware, and I think I've said it before, we charge a whole lot of money for consultation. I mean, just a whole lot. So imagine we're doing 4 hours a month, 5 if it's a month with 5 Mondays, which is, Tuesdays, which is when we meet. So I would charge $6,000, right, for those 5 hours. But as a benefit of being members of the mastermind, they get 5 hours with me that they don't pay for it. It comes because they're members of our mastermind, and it's just great. We go back and forth. It's accountability. It's things that you have to do. And really, you know, we come back. These are the problems that I run into, and everyone pitches in and they give advice and they say, hey, you know, try this, try that. So it's been a really good experience, even for me, because, you know, I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna have to go and do everything. And no, it's not like that at all. Although I do give a lot, and I give a lot of advice, consultation, of course. But really, you know, it helps me, because it helps me see what other people are struggling with, where they're being successful, what's happening, and it's been really enjoyable. It really has been.
Yeah, and I just want to add to that really quickly, because I'm not in one of the small group masterminds right now, because I'm hosting a weekly webinar with the POFU Live attendees for 12 weeks, which is essentially a quarter. It's very much like a small mastermind, except this one's got about 9 members. But yeah, same thing. We host. I'm like, I just did our weekly meeting just an hour ago, like right before Hump Day Hangouts. I had a meeting with those guys, and it's great because we set up a separate Slack channel for it, and the guys in there are like, some of them are contributing. Grant, I can't thank you enough, dude, that he created a process for how to take the location research for GMB assets for identifying potential opportunities. And he did something really cool, which shows how to import the data into My Maps, which then shows you, like, it plots all the map pins for each location. It's just amazing. It's going to save so much time determining which assets to secure. And something like that was like invaluable, because it's not something I even thought about doing. So I was doing it a lot more of a manual way, which was very, very tedious. And then Grant came in and was like, oh, yeah, check this out. Boom. And he sent this and dropped a screencast video in there. And it was just like, wow, man, that's just going to save me a ton of time. And so I've said this before. We learn as much from our mastermind members as they learn from us. And that's no lie, guys. So again, if you're you know, we highly recommend you come check out the mastermind, guys. It's so much more than just marketing training or SEO. So much more than that.
Definitely. Yeah, please come join. And we've got some awesome stuff in the works for our mastermind members. Obviously, that's kind of a continual thing. That's where we're able to focus a lot of our time and attention. But for current members and people who are thinking about joining, we got some really good stuff coming up real soon. So stay tuned for that. And before we hop into questions, Marco, I believe, well, you mentioned the donations. If you want to mention the charity and then tell people, you know, they can give from the goodness of their hearts, and we hope people do. But I think that if they donate in the near future, they might, you know, there's kind of a reward, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm planning to do a webinar, and it's going to be awesome. I'm going to give some stuff away. If you're a buyer of drive stacks, I recommend that you go. We've done one already. It's in the can, and you can have access to that. All you have to do is donate. I'm not asking for a specific amount. Whatever comes from your heart, I mean, that's good enough. And if you donate, then I'll put you on the list, and you will be invited to that webinar. It's not going to be a public webinar. Sorry, it's going to be just for people who donate to the charity. I've added the URL where you can go and you can donate. If you've already donated, of course, I will take you into account and invite you to the webinar. It's going to take place December 10th, so you have until December 10th to donate and get invited. So there you go.
Outstanding. All right, guys. I think that wraps it up. Did I miss anything?
No, I think we can get into questions. So I'm going to grab the screen.
Cool. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Shit. All right. First up, Greg Jordan. He says, my RYS done for you was just completed on 11/13. So that was 15 days ago. The Google site appears to be copy and paste from my client's main website. Won't this be duplicate content problem or cause some problems with the main site? No, Greg, duplicate content is a myth. It's only duplicate content is only an issue when it's on the same domain. Okay, it's only an issue when it's on the same domain. The reason I say that is because consider anytime or when brands publish blog posts, what do? They go share their blog posts on across social media. They republish them on other locations. That's perfectly normal. In fact, it's expected. So something else, press releases, incredibly powerful. I absolutely love press releases. I use them all the time. It's my favorite off-page method for link building. And so again, press releases are exact duplicates of the original press release. One press release gets published in one cable or newswire or whatever you want to call it, and then it gets picked up and republished by dozens or hundreds, oftentimes many hundreds of other publications, right? And it's the exact same content. And press releases are incredibly good for SEO. I mean, again, it's my favorite off-page link building tactic. So if duplicate content was an issue, how come that doesn't occur in those? So again, just to school you, and I'm not trying to pick on you, Greg, but just to be aware, the only time it's duplicate content is when it's on your same domain. So like if you were to republish the same article multiple times on your domain, your money site, that could cause panda problems, duplicate content issues. But you're not going to have that problem if you are republishing in other locations, especially if you give attribution or cite the source, which is what you're doing with the Drive Stack, right? The Google site and all of the files and folders and all the stuff that we add content to are going to be linking back to the money site, the source. So no, it's not an issue. Number two, after several SERP pages, 8 and counting, I still cannot find the client's website for the main keyword. I realize this is not much time, but when can I expect to see them to start appearing in the search results for that keyword? Also, I'm not seeing a local 3-pack box appear, local real estate niche. Why would that be? Okay. So the first part of your question is, yes, it's only been 15 days. So, Drive Stacks have a tendency to not show results for a period. It varies depending on the keyword, depending on the competition level. I've had some Drive Stacks that really showed no improvement in SEO for 5 or 6 weeks. And then all of a sudden, boom, to #1. I am not in any way suggesting that that's what you should expect. Okay. But the first Drive Stack I ever built was for Virginia SEO, right? It was to promote my own agency, and it was a test. And it took about 6 weeks. I didn't see any results at all. I saw a bunch of dancing, but nothing like significantly positive for 5 or 6 weeks. And I actually just stopped checking after a few weeks, like 3 or 4 weeks or 2 or 3 weeks or whatever, because I wasn't seeing significant improvement. And then after, like I said, 6 weeks or so, I was like, I wonder how this thing's doing. And I went and I searched it. And boom, it's been #1 since May of 2015 for Virginia SEO and Virginia SEO Agency and SEO Agency Virginia and SEO Virginia, like all these different types of keywords. And it's #1 in Google Organic ever since May of 2015, right? And it was like 6 weeks of nothing. And then boom, it shot to #1 and it hasn't moved since. Again, results are not typical. I'm not telling you that that's going to happen for you, especially because you're targeting real estate keywords, which I'm going to let Marco talk about that here in just a moment. But real estate keywords are incredibly competitive. That's one of the reasons I don't like working in SEO in that industry. It's incredibly competitive. So it's only been 15 days. That's not near enough time to expect results, #1. Number two, real estate is an incredibly difficult keyword. Any type of real estate is tough. The SEO competition is tough because you're dealing with extremely aged and high authority type websites such as Redfin and Weichert and Long and Foster and Century 21 and Zillow and all these great big. I think Truly is another one. These are all these big sites that are really authoritative, and they're very, very difficult to overcome in organic. Okay. The last part of that question, when you say about the local 3-pack not appearing, that I'm not sure why that is, depending on what your location is. Sometimes a 3-pack will not appear for certain queries. However, I know I've done this multiple times. Sometimes just publishing a press release promoting the business with the NAP, the net name, address, and phone number, can get a 3-pack to appear. I've had that. I've proven that multiple times with several of my own clients or lead gen sites, where I've been able to force a maps pack to appear, or a knowledge panel, which is even better, right? A knowledge panel is when a maps pack doesn't appear, but the big knowledge panel on the right side of the search engine results page shows for that particular company. And so when I've used queries with local intent that should force or should call a 3-pack, but it didn't. Then I published a press release. Again, we've got a course called Local PR Pro that teaches how to do that, or you can just buy a press release and promote your company. And often, I'm not saying one is going to do it, but I know that a lot of the times I've been able to force a 3-pack to appear or a knowledge panel from just one press release. Sometimes it takes 2 or 3, but most of the time I've been able to accomplish that with just a press release. Marco, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, this is one of those questions that kind of gets you. Yeah, and it's not great. This is one we get time and time again. Hyper competitive real estate. Hyper competitive. Doesn't matter if it's local. It's hyper competitive. It reminds me of that guy in Toronto. I did 2 posts in my IFTTT for DUI attorney Toronto, and I'm not appearing at number 1. Why?
Yeah, he said this stuff doesn't work.
Well, yeah, your stuff doesn't work. First of all, Greg, did you get the done for you users guide? And I hope you're live so that you can answer my question, because I really need to know if you got the guide. If you got the guide and you read it, then you know that there's a 21-day period where your stuff is going to dance all over the place before it starts settling, and Google starts figuring out where all of this relevance that you're feeding, both to your money site, to your maps, and everything else, is going to go. And I specifically talk about that in the user's guide, because once that happens, and according to what happens after that time is what you're supposed to do. And there's a ton of things that I recommend in that user's guide. Everyone who has a done for you, an RYS done for you stack, should get the user's guide. It's standard operating procedure. And if you don't get it, then I'm going to track down the VA who did that, and I'm going to jump on his or her ass for not doing the shit the way that I require it, the way that I demand, the way that it's supposed to be done, so you guys are served correctly, so that you know what you can expect from these stacks. One stack in real estate may not be enough. It may be that you have to add, well, I'm not going to get into what you have to add. By the way, donate to the charity and you'll know what it is that you have to add to your drive stacks to make them even more powerful, to start targeting more keywords, how to target them, and how to get it to power up. But I really need to know if you got the user's guide. And if you did get it, then my question is going to be, why didn't you read it thoroughly so that you understand everything that's going to happen, and that you're still within the 21 period where, you know, sometimes you'll pop to number 1, then you'll see it disappear. It'll come back and it'll disappear. And if you SERP watch during those 21 days, you're going to need to drink a whole lot, because you're going to drive yourself crazy. You're going to go bananas. Ask Daryl Dressel, one of our most successful people with drive stacks. And this is where he was, just watching SERPs and tell, oh my God, you know, it's nowhere to be found. Oh, it came back. Oh, it's nowhere to be found. Oh, I lost traffic. Oh, I gained traffic. And I said, dude, you got to stop. You got to stop watching SERPs. Let it marinate. Once it hits, watch where it hits. Go from there. It's all in the Done For You Users guide, dude. So check that out.
The last part of that is, do I need to feed this system with regular content? No. You know, what we recommend is that you're blogging from your money site through Syndication Network. That's a really good way to add content and to, excuse me, build relevancy, start getting more impressions for more keywords, all that kind of stuff. But Marco, do you suggest adding additional content to a drive stack after it's done? What do you suggest for that?
Well, that's one of the things that we're going to get into during the webinar that we're going to do for the people who donate. We're going to show them exactly what you need to do to power them up so that they become just ranking machines. Yeah, it's not just one thing. Okay, you get a drive stack, hyper competitive, and you expect it to rank. There's other things that you have to do. It's in the user's guide also.
It depends. You know, there's variables, Greg. That's what we're getting at, because I never did anything else to the drive stack for SEO for SEO Virginia. And that's the truth, guys. When I first set it up, I did one PBN blast from my PBN that I had that I would have never linked from that PBN to direct to a money site, because it was after Penguin and after a lot of PBN stuff had happened. And they were PBNs that were not set up without a footprint. In other words, they were basically, I was using them for video syndication stuff, and that was it. But I did a blast. I think I did 18 links to a PBN that was toxic. No shit. It was okay for videos, but I would have never linked to a money site with links from that PBN because of the footprint issues. And yet that was all I did. And I think I did a SendWire blast, which was, a bunch of Web 2.0 stuff. And that was it. And it's still to this day, watch it make me a liar out of me. Right there, Google Sites. And look, because it's picking up my local IP, it's actually picking my agency up and putting a knowledge panel. But I mean, again, all different types of keywords around SEO Virginia, SEO Agency Virginia, all that. And it's been #1 since May of 2015. And go look at backlink analysis on this Google site, guys. You'll see that I'm not building links to this damn thing, right? And I haven't. It's just been #1 ever since. And so, again, sometimes a drive stack will give you incredible results with no additional work. Results aren't typical, but many times you're going to have to do additional things. And you can do things like build links to the drive stack, publish content. There's a ton of other things that you can do that obviously is beyond the scope of a Hump Day Hangout. Okay. Good question, though, Greg. R. Bacon is up.
By the way, before you go on, Greg is on. He has not read the Dump for Your Users guide, but he said he's going to read it and try to understand the terms.
There you go.
And so, yes, please.
And Greg, remember, you have every Wednesday, you can come back and ask us additional questions here. If it's something that is too specific that we can't answer in a public setting, we'll direct you to the proper paid group. But otherwise, we've got a lot of people that have come here and started building their business by just asking questions in this public forum here on Hump Day Hangouts. And then once they've reached a certain level, they've, come join some of our paid groups. So, you're welcome to come here and ask questions, Greg.
I'm getting messages that people have donated. I've added my email, my personal email, mbenavides@semanticmastery.com. Drop me a line and I'll add you to the list so that you can be invited to the webinar.
Awesome. Okay. Randy says, I think it's Randy. Forgive me if I'm wrong. But I'm pretty sure it's Randy Bacon. Anyways, a week or so ago, excuse me, you mentioned something about not using some function of Google pertaining to GMB management or connecting other accounts to your management account. I did not quite understand. Is this the same area if I am managing a client's GMB page? What is the proper way to manage multiple GMB locations? Okay, great question. I'm glad that you asked this, because if it was unclear or fuzzy to you, it was likely unclear to others as well. So I'm glad you asked this question. Okay, what I was talking about specifically was mainly if you're building lead gen assets, guys. Remember, if you're building lead gen assets, they're spammed. They're black hat locations, assets, right? I mean, let's be real clear about this, guys. I know people think spam is a bad word and all that, whatever. It is what it is, and that's exactly what we're doing. When you're building lead gen assets that aren't for a real bona fide, genuine business, you're spamming, right? Period. Okay, so that's #1. So when you're doing that, when you're spamming, you got to be real careful about footprint issues, because if Google finds out you're spamming in one property, one location, and then can connect the dots between other locations, you could lose them all. And we talk about mitigating risk or reducing exposure all the time. I talk about that, guys. I have gone over and above, way beyond the normal protocol for trying to hide footprints when it comes to my business, because I have lost a lot of stuff over the years from not being adamant or vigilant about hiding footprints. And because of that, and I hate rework. Like, I can't stand, I like building assets that produce for me long-term. I don't like turn and burn. I don't like short-term assets, because so I've learned over the years to take extra precautions to eliminate or reduce exposure. So what I'm talking about is when you're dealing with lead gen assets, guys, I almost recommend just only logging in and managing the GMB asset from the original owner account. In other words, when you set up a new GMB, or if you're smart, you buy it from us or from another provider, whatever, you're going to get a new Google account, or it could be an age account, whatever. It's going to be new to you, a new Google account that is the primary owner of that GMB asset. What I recommend you do is that you use a browser keeper app like Ghost Browser or Browseo. I use Browseo personally, but use a browser keeper app and open a new project. So like a new browsing instance for that particular Google account, log into it. Even if you bind it to your own IP, you don't even need proxies for this, guys. I'm telling you, you don't even need proxies for this. Just log into it through a browser keeper app like Ghost Browser or Browseo. And now that logged in, that browsing session will remain logged in no matter what. Even when you shut down the application or the software, either one, that Google account will still remain logged in. So it's like that device is always turned on, right? That browser is always on. And so now you just constantly do all of your updates, your optimization, everything through that account. And the reason I say don't manage, I'm recommending not to manage through a manager account for lead gen assets is because that is the manager account creates a connection between one account and other accounts. Does that make sense? And so I'm saying now, just to be 100% transparent, I still am using a manager account for location clusters. In other words, if I go to a particular metro area and I find 10 locations that I secured, so I set up 10 different GMB assets for that metro area, which is like a city, right? And the suburbs, the surrounding suburbs. If I set up 10 locations, right now I am still testing with being able to manage those through a manager account. Because I've had manager accounts terminated in the past and it didn't affect the individual GMB accounts because they were owned, I'm using air quotes, but their primary owner was a separate Google account. So, but what I'm saying is if you're, just to be clear, Randy, if you're dealing with real bona fide businesses, none of this matters. You can just connect to those GMBs through your profile or through any profile really, and as a manager, and you're perfectly fine because those are all legit businesses. Like Google's not going to punish you or those businesses for managing real live Google My Business stuff unless you're doing something stupid spammy, right? And then if you as a manager gets punished, it's not going to affect that GMB asset because it's owned by somebody else or a different profile, right? A manager account can be terminated. If an owner account a manager account can be terminated and it won't affect that GMB. It just basically means that manager can no longer access it because the account was terminated. But the GMB is still live and the primary owner account can still access and make edits and blah, 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 right? So the point is you don't ever want to get an owner account terminated. However, when you're dealing with lead gen assets, which are black-hatted assets, guys, they're spammed addresses, then I recommend not even using a manager account, even though, as I just fully disclaimed, I am still using a manager account. But guys, let us do the testing. You know, if I come back in 3 months and say, by the way, we've got assets that we're managing through a manager account, they're black hat assets that are managing through a manager account, we've been dealing with them for months now, and they're producing well, and we haven't had any termination issues, then I'll let you guys know. But for right now, I'm telling you, you're probably better off just using a browser keeper app, Ghost Browser, Browseo, one of those, or any one that you choose, and just logging in and always doing your optimization work through that primary owner account. It's a little bit of an inconvenience, guys, but what's more of an inconvenience? Having to go into each individual asset account when you're doing any work in it, or losing all of your assets because you left a footprint, which is more inconvenient, right? And you all know the answer to that. So my point is, if it's black-hatted stuff, I would recommend that you stay within the individual primary owner Google account anytime you're doing any work. If you're doing work for clients, which are bona fide businesses, then absolutely you're not going to, I don't ever recommend that you ask the client to get their Google account login details. That's silly. Don't do that. That opens you up for liability if something happens to their Google account. What you would do in those cases for clients is tell them, here's my email account. Give them a tutorial that shows them how to go into Google My Business and click on users and add you as a manager. Does that make sense? And then that makes it easy for you to be able to access their locations through your account, make edits to them, and do whatever else you need to do. And since they're bona fide businesses, it's as long as you're not, even if you do something really spammy, since you're just a manager, it would affect you and not them. Well, I mean, it might affect their listing, but what I'm saying is if your account got terminated, God forbid, I couldn't imagine my Google account being, like my primary account being terminated. But if it did, it wouldn't affect my clients' businesses, right? It would just remove me, prohibit me from being able to access them. So anyways, I hope that was clear. The last part of that I want to mention is one thing you don't ever want to do, and I know this because I lost a cluster of locations for Atlanta for tree service stuff just 2 weeks ago, and that is do not, guys, I'm telling you, do not use GMB location groups, and that's something you'll see where you can actually group locations together in Google My Business. If you go to manage locations, you'll see that there's a location group like drop down, and you can create location groups. But don't do that, because I started to test that and I lost a whole cluster of sites in Atlanta that were 100% fully optimized. So don't do that. So great question. And again, guys, that's what we're here for. You know, I'm not telling you guys don't test stuff on your own. I'm just telling you, you know, we do a shit ton of testing here, and then we always share the results with you guys to prevent you from losing a bunch of stuff. Right? Great question, though. I really like that question, because I'm glad that, you know, again, if it was unclear to you, it's probably unclear to others, and hopefully I clarified it. Larry says, hello, I'm stumbled onto your video from May, local GMB Pro Revealed, generate leads from Google without SEO, and watched most of the video. I went to find the video to finish watching it, and now I found local Lease Pro, the Side Hustle Toolbox that was released. Does this newer one replace the one from May? How long does the training take to begin using? Great question, Larry. No, local Lease Pro is that's the more current course. Like, in other words, let me rephrase that. That is the newer course. They're both current. The difference is local Lease Pro is how to go out and find easy opportunities for securing local GMB or Google My Business assets to build your own lead generation business that then you lease those assets out to local businesses, right? It's about finding easy or low-hanging fruit opportunities, right, that are going to take little to no optimization work to start producing results. Okay, so what we're looking for is low competition stuff, and so all of that, local Lease Pro teaches how to do all of that. It's really the location research part of it is really important, and that's what we're going to be updating in 2 weeks when I do the update webinar. And that, again, as I mentioned at the beginning of this webinar, guys, is going to be 100% public. Everybody can come see it, so you can learn about the location research there, or at least the updated process. It will only be public for about 24, maybe 48 hours, and then you have to be a member of the MasterMind or in the local Lease Pro course to be able to see that once we turn it, you know, from public to private. Anyways, the local Lease Pro business is about that. Local GMB Pro, that's about how to take GMB assets that are maybe in more competitive areas, and how it's like the advanced GMB or Google My Business training. So if you want to boil it down into the Reader's Digest version, local Lease Pro is the beginner, is for people that are looking to get started in the lead gen business. Local GMB Pro is the advanced training. That's for when you have GMB assets that aren't producing as well as you would like them to do. You apply local GMB Pro methods and they will start producing. It's for those uber competitive areas that you're having trouble getting results for Maps listings or Google My Business listings. And by applying the GMB Pro training, you'll be able to get, or the methods, excuse me, by applying the methods, you'll be able to start getting better results from them. Okay. So again, local Lease Pro is the front end. Local GMB Pro is like the advanced training for more competitive stuff. Okay.
I would add that sometimes in local Lease Pro, you're going to get something stubborn that refuses to move.
Yep.
You apply local GMB methods, and the sucker just moves. If it doesn't, you hit it with local PR Pro.
Local PR Pro.
Our stuff goes hand in hand, because you hit it with local PR Pro. If that doesn't do it, then you hit it with the drive stack, and behind that, the local PR Pro, so that you stack the press releases into the drive stack, which is going into the local PR Pro, the local GMB Pro methods, which is going to the local Lease Pro method, and it just becomes just this awesome. I don't know. It's a nuclear missile aimed at whatever it is that you're trying to rank for. And I know people that are ranking in hyper competitive stuff. You guys met Gary, right?
Yeah.
And he's taking on, and I'm not going to mention his metro area, but he's taking on a metro area and dominating the websites that you were just mentioned. What was it? Trulia.
Trulia.
Trulia. and Remax and Century 21, you name it, and he's dominating them because I mean he's driving so much power. And this, what we're talking about here, for lack of a better word, because I don't want to use anybody else's whatever they call it, whatever they call power. I call it power. It's power that we're generating, guys, and we just show you how.
Yeah, and last thing I want to mention about that is it's funny because, you know, when we talked about, it's kind of weird, but when for years the first step was always build a WordPress site, whether it was a lead gen asset or for a client, either one, I would always build a WordPress site, and then the very first thing I would do would set up a syndication network. Well, now it's funny because now I'm not building WordPress websites at all unless it's for a client and they want it. But for all my lead gen stuff, I'm not building any WordPress websites. Why? Why go through all that trouble and hassle, buying domains, setting up hosting, building it out, content, silos, all that shit? Don't need all that stuff, man. We can get results using the Google My Business assets, the tools that they give you, and they're free and they're easy to set up, right? And so what's funny is I used to always build syndication networks, was like first step out of the gate after the website was built. Well, now syndication networks are like the last thing that I add to a lead gen asset, that from starting with the local Lease Pro method, that start there. Then if I have an asset that needs the additional push, I apply local GMB Pro methods. And then if it still needs an additional push, we do local PR Pro. Well, to be 100% transparent, I always, standard operating procedures, I use press releases for everything I do anyways. So I'm already applying a press release to the asset to begin with. If it still needs additional push, then we'll do a drive stack. And if I still need a push after that, I'll set up a syndication network for it, and then set up through our GMB auto poster. We get an RSS feed from the GMB posts, which then I can start syndicating my GMB posts out to a branded network for that lead gen asset, which will absolutely get results. So that's like the final nail in the coffin if I need it. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of funny because it's transposed. I used to always do the syndication networks first, and now it's the last damn thing that I add, which is funny. It's not because they don't work. It's just because it's a lot of additional work to set them up, and it's not something that's needed for the lead gen assets unless it's uber competitive, right? So it's funny how things change. Chris is up, excuse me, but he posted a support question from Herman. Herman says, please clarify what I get with a single tier syndication network and how will it help YouTube video rankings? All right, with single tier syndication network, that typically those, I wouldn't recommend a single tier network for YouTube syndication. I would recommend a full 2-tier network. Because with YouTube syndication, guys, there are no footprint issues if you're using the networks the way that we set them up, or if you're building them yourself, if you're using the applets the way that we recommend them. Okay, there's no footprint issues with that. All you're doing is you're acting as a publisher for Google when you republish YouTube videos in other locations. So you can get as crazy as you want, and stack as many networks as you want on a YouTube channel, and the only thing it's going to do is add power. Right? It's not going to harm your video. I've never had a single video hit from syndicating a video through syndication networks. I've never had a penalty or sandbox or anything. Okay. Now I have when I've had videos with syndicated with the full description from the YouTube video, because you know how we like to spam YouTube descriptions, guys. Come on, we all do it, right? Well, if you syndicate the video with the full YouTube description, that can cause problems. And I've had Web2 accounts shut down for that. I've had money sites terminated for that. I've had all kinds of shit happen from that. So, but with YouTube, like I said, because you don't have any footprint issues, if you're using the networks the way we set them up, or the applets the way we have developed them, right? Then you can stack as many networks as you want. One single brand or single tier network is typically what I recommend for blog syndication. And that's because we create a branded network. Everything is themed and branded for the company, the business, right? And so, and that makes sense because if you're syndicating content from your blog out to your branded profiles, you're telling the world, you're claiming your footprint, right? It's like you're putting a great big red flag right down in the middle, your money site being the middle, and saying, hey, this is me, and this is me everywhere. And this is us everywhere. This is our content in as many places as we can. On your branded profiles, why wouldn't you republish your content on your branded profiles? But for YouTube, yeah, if you have a YouTube channel, I would make the first syndication ring or network branded for your YouTube channel, right? Your YouTube channel can be a brand, so make it a branded network. But then you can start adding second tier networks, which are persona-based networks. They're non-branded networks. You can add additional first tier networks that are triggered directly from YouTube, right, that are persona-based networks, it's perfectly fine to do that. You can even go out and add third tiers and fourth tiers. I don't recommend that because there's a lot of chaining that goes together that could break down, and then you lose the power of anything downstream, if that makes sense. That's why I always stuck with just 2-tier networks, because they were easier to maintain. But again, Larry, what's powerful about it is, oh, I'm sorry, not Larry, Herman. What's powerful about these are that whenever you're publishing the YouTube video and syndicating them out, that it acts as embeds. And those are kind of like, it's almost like a backlink, right? For a YouTube video. It's not quite the same. It's different than a backlink, but it's similar. It's like a vote, right? It's saying, hey, so there's things that you can do to improve the power of your syndication networks, like build links to them, have themed relevant content on them. There's a whole bunch of other stuff that you can do with those too. But again, there's no better way. Well, the best thing for YouTube videos for ranking right now is engagement, period. There's no doubt about that. Traffic and engagement to videos can absolutely rank a video, but something that but syndicating videos and embedding them still helps a lot, right? And that's something that syndication networks 100% automates. And he says, the last part of that is I have several Web 2.0 sites and social media properties that I also post to manually. Well, a lot of those sites, again, if they're Web 2s that can be triggered by IFTTT, then you could set syndication network applets up to also syndicate directly to those, so you don't have to do it manually anymore, Herman. You know, I would recommend that. Plus, there are some other like services and plugins, WordPress plugins and things like that that will also syndicate to some of the things that IFTTT doesn't connect to. So you may want to look into some of those apps too if needed. If you already have a bunch that are built out, I mean. Okay, it's a good question.
I'm glad. Yeah, before you go on, I'm just glad that you mentioned branding, because what I use them for now, I'm like you. I stopped using WordPress, and now what I do with the networks, I use them to validate and solidify the entity. I'm all after the entity, and that's what it helps. I don't really care if I push my my content anywhere, because Google is going to take it anyway, right? From the way we do local GMB Pro. So Google's going to see it. Google's going to see it and act on it. But I do want but my entity everywhere, so that it helps to validate and solidify the fact that this is a real entity on the web, and that there's something solid behind this entity.
Yep. Yeah, and that's true. I mean, even if you're not syndicating content to it, just having a syndication network can help to validate an entity, which is it's a great signal for Google. Ken's up. Ken, wow. I haven't seen Ken in a while, and I think he mentions that. He says, I need to change a client's GMB address. They are moving to a new location as of January 6th. I don't want to mess up their GMB listing. Is there anything I should do besides simply changing the address? I'm guessing it will trigger re-verification. Okay, well, there's a couple things going on with that, Ken. Number one, if it's a service area business where the customers do not come to the business location, you can click to clear the address now from GMB. In fact, that's the recommended procedure from Google. In other words, if your business, and I don't know this, but if your business is a service area business where the business goes to the customer's location, so for example, contractors typically, and that's primarily what I work with is contractors. So most all the things that I work on are service area businesses. Well, now, and this just changed within the last 3 weeks. Now, if you have a service area business, you go in and clear the address. If you have a verified profile, all you have to do is go into the info tab. You click on the address section, and then there's literally a link in there that says clear address. You click that button and it will wipe it clean, and then you click OK or apply or save or whatever it is, and it will literally remove the address from the listing entirely. And that's fine because you've already verified the profile. And then you set your service area by zip code or city name or county name or however you want to do it. You can set your service area, which is how you're supposed to do it. Now, if it's a point of sale business or a storefront business, which means customers come to the business's location, then absolutely you're going to want to display your address. But what I have found, I'm not going to tell you that it's not going to trigger a re-verification for sure because I don't know. But I can tell you that I have changed, and I've got a client literally that on Monday, I just changed his physical address. He's a painting contractor, and he moved locations. He moved from one side of the city to the other. So the zip code changed, the street address changed, phone number stayed the same, web address stayed the same, obviously company name stayed the same, but the street address changed and the zip code. So I just changed it and didn't trigger re-verification. Okay, because it's a verified address or a verified entity business, a Google My Business profile, and because of that, Google didn't. Now, if it's a new listing and you do it, it's more likely to trigger re-verification. And I'm not saying that it's not going to trigger a re-verification, but I have changed the address for established listings on many different occasions. Not the same business, changed it multiple times, but I've changed many different businesses one time because they were established businesses and they moved locations and it didn't trigger re-verification. Does that make sense? And a lot of the times if it's an established business and it does trigger re-verification, it's just a phone verification. And it's not an actual like postcard thing. So I would not worry about it, Ken. If it's a service area business, you can remove the address entirely. It's not going to hurt anything. You don't even need to put the new address in the GMB dashboard. It's not even going to ask for it. But if it's a storefront, then yes, you're going to want the address, obviously. But I would just go in and change it, period. Just go in and do it through your manager account. I'm assuming you're connected through a manager account. Just do it through your manager account. And if it triggers re-verification, then do whatever it takes to re-verify it. It should come back immediately once it's re-verified because it's an established business. Okay. Should I make the change before the 6th or wait to the move? I'd wait to the move. Don't do it until the day that they move. Change it. All right. By the way, Bradley, glad to be back. Been away for about a year and a half. I thought I hadn't seen you in a while, Ken. Wasn't sure if I would ever be able to do this again. Well, I'm glad you're back, Ken. You've always been here and asked lots of good questions, so we appreciate you coming back. Israel says, hi, I'm in the business loan niche, which is pretty competitive. I have 2 questions. I learned network syndication from Peter Garety. That's funny. Yeah, Peter Garety was a mentor of mine many years ago. That's interesting. Back then, we built one branded network and then a network for each primary keyword. Yeah, they called those TGNs, traffic generation networks. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, Israel. The primary keyword network got very SEO optimized stuff. The branded network just got normal content that was not overly optimized. Is this still relevant, or can you get away with just one branded network? Yeah, I just do one branded network now, Israel. And again, it's just because the stuff that Peter taught back then, it absolutely worked. And that's, some of what Peter taught went into the development of what I came up with, which was originally called IFTTT SEO Academy. But for various reasons, we had to change the name to Syndication Academy. And so, yeah, that was one of the ingredients that I mixed in to make my recipe of Syndication Academy. And that was some of the stuff that Peter Garety taught. And it worked. I don't recommend doing that kind of stuff now, though. And the reason why is because of footprint issues, right? The footprint issues are much more, Google's much more aware of footprint issues now. It's much easier to identify footprint stuff, and Google doesn't like that. Where back, several years ago, and we're talking like 2012 and 13 timeframe that Peter Garety was teaching a lot of this stuff. It wasn't as much of an issue then. Okay. So that's why I say and not only that, but obviously if you've done it, how much work goes into setting up all those networks and in connecting everything all together. And I know he's got some tools that help to facilitate some of that stuff, but I found it to be overly complicated to set all that stuff up. I know because I did it for a long time, and that's why I developed my flavor or my version, which became Syndication Academy, because it was much more efficient. It was a lot less work. Does that make sense? That's the only reason. And then also, I like the fact that it didn't require a paid software or application. You just used IFTTT, which was free. It wasn't resource heavy like some of the plugins that Peter Garety would use to force the syndication. IFTTT runs off RSS feeds, so it was not taxing at all to the server. So your WordPress, your website servers or hosting company. So there's a number of reasons why I developed Syndication Academy. To replace that kind of a method. Is it still relevant? Yeah, I wouldn't do that kind of stuff now just because of footprint issues. Are syndication networks still relevant? Yes, absolutely. And if you're developing decent content for your site and syndicating it out, it's going to help. I don't overly optimize. I don't write content anyways. I have, team that does it, but none of the content that we produce is overly optimized ever. It's more about the activity and just building up an overall relevancy factor for the website. So we don't have to uber optimize or hyper optimize any particular piece of content. It's not necessary because we're painting an overall picture about what the site is about, right? And so through multiple posts. So it's not necessary to uber optimize one particular piece of content, which we can accomplish over a series of pieces of content within a silo or whatever, however you want to do it. So again, syndication network, one branded syndication network, guys, I'm telling you, that is all I do for my clients and for my own assets. YouTube, I use multiple syndication networks, but for all the stuff that I manage, guys, one branded syndication network per asset, period. And it's so much easier to manage, guys. I'm telling you, it's so much easier to manage. If you guys want to go through all that additional work, please do. But I like to get results with the least amount of effort possible and the least amount of resources. And one branded syndication network is all I do for all my clients now, and have for the last several years now. Okay. You can power up. By the way, Israel, you can do a lot of things to power up that branded network, right? And there's other stuff that I recommend now that are going to help. Like Local PR Pro would help you a lot. The Local PR Pro method, using press releases consistently, would help you. I promise you that, because they're very, very powerful if you know what you're doing. Okay. Drive Stack would help you there too, by the way. There's a lot of stuff you could do. We lend nationally, but also locally. Should I set up a separate site and optimize it specifically for local, or should I just use one site for everything? I'll tell you what you should do, Israel. What you should do is the local Lease Pro method, and go out and start securing as many GMB assets, Google My Business assets across the country as you can, because you're in one industry, which is what I recommend anyways, because you already have all the content, right? You already know your industry. You know the keywords. You know the vocabulary, you know the pain points, right? So you can duplicate a GMB asset just over and over and over again, because you already know the industry. And so I would recommend you get Local Lease Pro and start applying that method to your business right now, today, because I don't know how long that method is going to work. Google's going to close that loophole, guys. I don't know when, but it's going to be closed. So take advantage of it now while you can. Okay. Good questions, though. Try that one more time. All right. Jordan says, have a client who is veteran-owned. Veteran-owned badge is showing in GMB mobile, but not GMB desktop. Is that just a thing on desktop? Probably, Jordan. There's a lot of updates going on in GMB right now. So, a lot of new stuff is rolling out. It's constantly evolving because it's new. So I wouldn't sweat it. TikTok's, bro, like that. What is the YouTube silo diagrams? What is YouTube silo diagrams? We have a course called YouTube Silo Academy that has diagrams in it. That's what you're talking about. I don't know what YouTube silo diagrams are, though. How can I rank my YouTube videos, and how do I embed them to get massive amount of views? Okay, well, Syndication Academy would be great for how to syndicate videos. We just talked about that with Herman right there. So Syndication Academy would help you. YouTube Silo Academy, it's $7. $7. Go search YouTube Silo Academy. Go pick it up. $7. That will help. Add some syndication networks in, which you can purchase from. You can join Syndication Academy and learn how to do it yourself. Don't recommend that. You're better off just ordering done for you syndication networks, so you can work on creating videos, right, and building a business instead of building the networks and all that. Honestly, you're much better off just doing that. But that's what I would recommend. Get YouTube Silo Academy so you can learn how to silo your channel. It's really, really powerful, guys. And then start buying syndication networks and stacking them on your YouTube channel. Okay. Ken said, I heard you mention that we need to keep our browser sessions versus cleaning them out, and I understand why. You mentioned using Ghost or Browseo. Could I use FireFox in isolated containers? Yes. I don't know how to do that, Ken, but you can absolutely do that as far as I know. Does anybody else here have anything to say different to Ken?
I mentioned this. Yeah, I mentioned this before. Sometimes in those profiles, what happens is you lose your cookies. I don't know why, and I don't know how to fix it, but we tried it. We tried it because we were working on automating some of our syndication academy so that we could go in and do the profiles, and it was just a mess using isolated containers. But I mean, try it and see if it works for you.
Yeah, I've never used those, but I've heard other people have talked about using them, and I'm assuming they do something similar. But yeah, I would just test it, Ken. I prefer using. I bought Browseo when it was you could buy a lifetime license, so it doesn't cost me. I think it's monthly now, but that's why I use it. Other people I know say they like Ghost Browser. Whatever, just find one and use it. That's what you need to do, Ken. I'm telling you, you don't even need to worry about proxies anymore. And guys, like if you're a tinfoil hat kind of guy, you can worry about proxies, but you don't even need proxies because it's absolutely normal for multiple devices to be connected to an IP, sometimes hundreds or even thousands of IPs devices connected to a single IP because of public Wi-Fi. So it's no longer as an IP, it's an IP issue. It's a device issue now. And by logging in through a browser keeper app, and that's just what I'm calling them, then you're logging in through a specific device that remains logged in. It doesn't matter what the IP is because it's the device that matters. Does that make sense? And it matters to accrue a history. And that's what you're doing with those kind of apps. So if you can accomplish the same thing with Firefox, Firefox profiles or whatever they're called, I think, yeah, that should work. We're out of time. God damn, pardon my language, but we got a lot of stuff that we didn't get to today, guys. Holy crap. I can stick around for about 9 more minutes. I got to cut it out at 5:10. So if you want to hang out with me, Marco, I'll answer a few more.
Let's do it.
All right. Jordan says, second question. We have a client who's coming to us already ranking number one for dry eye plus major city and a lot of derivatives. She wants us to redesign the look of the site. If we only mess with the look and not the content or the URL structures or nav with exact same site ranking should hold fine, correct? Jordan, I'm going to say no. And the reason why is because I've done that in the past where all I've changed was like a theme. And then obviously like the design elements had to be changed, but none of the content and none of the URL structures got changed at all. And I've still seen dancing. Usually it's just a very short temporary dance because the structure of the site, like what I mean, like the coding has changed. Even if the structure remains the same, like the CSS, you know, the way that the theme was coded, all that is different. So it takes Google a little while to, like, it kind of like Google goes, what do I do with this? And then it takes a few days or a couple weeks, maybe even the 21-day period that we typically see, but then it settles right back into where it was originally. So if you're number one, you're going to end up number one, but will you see dancing? I'm going to say yes, because I've seen dancing from just changing themes, even though nothing else was changed. Marco, what do you say?
I totally agree because I've redesigned and only the look, right? No structure, no URL, no nothing, links, whatever. And yes, because the CSS has links, right? You're linking to the CSS so that it communicates back and forth on what the website is supposed to look like, and it's going to be different. And that's what throws
the
Google.
Code is different.
Like you said, yeah, it throws Google for a loop, and then it comes back.
That's it. Brian, what's up, Brian? He says, do you guys know anything about SHA-256 data where you record data where it tracks buyer behavior? If so, where can I buy that data? I have no idea. I've never heard of it, Brian. I'm curious now, though. Maybe I'll look into that a little bit later. Larry's up again. He says, I just finished the 2-hour webinar. Yes, it did, Larry. Unfortunately, it did. But if you join MasterMind, which is $300, $300 a month, but if you join MasterMind, Local Lease Pro is the first course you get. If I don't know if we've talked about pathways yet. I don't know if we talked about the POFU pathways yet, but if you're just starting your business and you don't have any digital marketing income coming in yet, we're going to suggest a one path, and Local Lease Pro is the first thing you get. And it's $300, like as part of the MasterMind membership. By the way, you get a whole lot more than just Local Lease Pro for $300 as part of the MasterMind. Or you can buy it for $1,000. Unfortunately, by the way, we did just have a Black Friday sale for that for $500, but that sale's over. So, yeah, I apologize for that, Larry. The reason it went up so much is because I'm telling you, I have not seen an opportunity in local digital marketing like I had. Like the Local Lease Pro method is by far the best opportunity I've seen in local marketing since I started in 2010, and that is no bullshit, guys. Telling you, the Google in July, when the mobile first algorithm took effect, when Google switched to mobile index first, right? It opened up this opportunity, which is what Local Lease Pro is developed around, that opportunity. And again, I don't know how long it's going to last, but it is hands down the biggest opportunity I've seen in local digital marketing since I started in 2010. And so the value is there, man, regardless. Okay. We sold it for a ridiculous price originally for that Side Hustle Toolbox because it was a collaborative thing, and honestly it was a mistake to have done that. but we wanted to get it into as many hands as possible of our audience, especially. So that's why we did it. Okay. Jeff's up. He says, hey guys, I'm looking at giving myself the gift of the SM Mastermind for Christmas. Oh, wow. Can I write Santa and tell him to bring it to you? That's awesome, man. He says, I figure it will be a gift that keeps on giving long after Google's next algo update. That's right, Jeff, because whatever happens, we're going to figure out what to do next. We always do. Is there a waiting list that I need to get on, or can I simply sign up and start participating? No, you can just sign up. That's great, Jeff. We would certainly love to have you, man. So please come join us. That's awesome. Ray's up. I got 5 more minutes. Ray says, at Jordan, I'm not a pro, but redesign. Okay, thanks. Ray is answering for Jordan, talking about moving, changing themes or design. Jim says, howdy, SM gang. Just a quickie. If there's time, what's everybody using for email lists these days? It seems like a new service pops up every week. I'm using Aweber, but don't mind changing if there's something better with better delivery rates and reasonable features. Okay, I'm only going to speak about local marketing, using autoresponders for local marketing, for prospecting, to find clients, as well as for local businesses that have newsletters that, you know, for stuff that I do very little email management for local businesses, guys. But the ones that I do, I always recommend drip.com, which is Lead Pages autoresponder, an email automation tool. I absolutely love it. It does incredible things. Their automations are fabulous. They call them workflows, and you can do amazing things with it. And it integrates with so many other applications out there. It's unbelievable. So I absolutely love Drip. And I tested 4 or 5 different autoresponders when I was doing, I was heavy prospecting for almost a year. We're still prospecting now because but anyways, long story short, I tested a whole bunch of different autoresponders, and Drip was the one that was inboxing into the primary tab in Gmail. And it was the only one out of the ones that I tested that the emails would automatically go directly to the primary tab in Gmail. A lot of the other ones would get put to the promotions tab, or, you know, there some issues would go through, you know, to spam folders and stuff like that, depending on your domain, if you're sending from a domain and that kind of stuff. And Drip was the one that always inboxed. Now, that's just my preference. I know we as a company, Semantic Mastery, for our stuff, we use ActiveCampaign, I think, is our primary one now. But we've also done a ton of other different kinds. I'm not a huge email marketer. So like I said, I found Drip. It works for me. I've been using Drip ever since. So about a year now, maybe a little over a year, I've been using Drip. And I absolutely think it's fabulous. Okay. But I know ActiveCampaign is, I think, our primary email service or autoresponder for Semantic Mastery. So that might tell you something too. And I don't think anybody else is on that can talk about it. No. Smarco doesn't do the email stuff either. So Jordan says ConvertKit. So check into that too. I've heard good things about ConvertKit too. I think we tried it for a company for Semantic Mastery, but for some reason I know we ended up with ActiveCampaign. Okay, I'm going to answer this last one for Ralph, and then we're going to wrap it up, guys. I apologize for anybody above us, but it's why it pays to get your questions in early. All right. Ralph says, I recently set up GMB listings with different Gmail accounts, but the same business name. The only difference was that I added the city name to the business name. Example would be Fun and Play Orlando or Fun and Play Winter Garden. My accounts were suspended immediately after verification. Could the similar names trigger the suspension or something else? Thanks for the help, guys. Ralph, I don't know. It could be that. I don't know. It could be that because we had one of our MasterMind members was talking about, and one of our new members, John, the one that is in Marco's small group mastermind. We were just talking about him earlier. Anyways, he had something similar happen with some GMB assets, and he had somewhat of a kind of a spammy name with the city name and stuff in it too. And I don't know if that's entirely it. I know that can trigger, you know, that names can be spammy, right? And if they are spammy, that can be a red flag, which means anything else that could be an indication of spam could cause it to terminate. In other words, just having a spammy name might not be enough to terminate the account. But having a spammy name and then having some other thing that is an indication of spam could be enough to cause it to terminate, right? So what I'm saying is, when you say you recently set up GMB listings with different Gmail accounts, which Gmail accounts did you use? Did you buy them? Did you create them? Because if you created them, did you create a footprint when you created them, or did you buy them? And if you bought them, the Gmail accounts that you used to create the GMB assets, were there footprints for those? We know because we've been using email service providers, or excuse me, email account providers to buy email accounts. And we found that Google is getting way better at determining spam accounts. And as soon as you start trying to build assets on a spammed Gmail address, like in other words, a Gmail address that was created with footprint, then they get terminated. They're fine as long as you don't do anything with them. But as soon as you start doing YouTube stuff or GMB stuff or Google Site stuff, they get terminated, right? And so that's why I'm saying it's really important that you either find a good provider for your email accounts, or you know how to set them up on your own if you're creating them yourself. So that could be an issue. It could be the name. I don't know what else to tell you. It could be also, you said separate Gmail accounts, but you know, depending on like, are you clearing your browser? Like, are you using a browser and then you clear all the cache and cookies and then log into the next Gmail account and the next GMB asset and start optimizing? Because if so, that's another footprint, right? The footprint is clearing the browser and starting with a fresh virgin browsing session every time you log into the next Google account. And you're doing it from the same IP unless you're using proxies, which is again, I just said you don't need to use proxies anymore. But if you're clearing your cache and your cookies between every browsing session and logging into a new account, you should have proxies, because otherwise everything is being tied back to your one account, and all of the activities, oh, excuse me, your one IP, all of the activities are spammy looking activities, because who besides spammers and SEOers clears their cache and cookies after every browsing session? Nobody, guys. Nobody does that. So that's why I'm saying, Ralph, I'm not saying you're doing any of these things. I'm just giving you some, you know, some common things that I see that people do that causes problems. And those are all things that you can look at. So best thing to do is find a good email provider, or learn how to create your own emails without footprint issues. Use a browser keeper app. We just talked about Ghost Browser or Browseo. Use something like that so that you always keep logged into the session for each Google account. And then I would also think about switching up your name a little bit. You don't have to add the location name, the business in the location in the business name, guys. You don't have to do that, right? You can even use just this like fun and play. Fun and play could be it, period. Right? Fun and play. You could use the same name for each asset. It doesn't matter. As long as the physical address is different, the phone number is different, and the URL is different, it doesn't matter if you have the same name. Okay.
And if there's no storefront and you're targeting the way that we teach to target, right? There's no need for Orlando, because Google already knows that it's Orlando, that it's Winter Gardens, that it's Miami, that it's whatever the freak it is in Florida. Google knows, because you told Google, because of the way that we set it up. And I'm not going to say it here because it's in the training. It's in local GMB Pro, and it's in local Lease Pro. And that's just the way to do it. There's no need anymore, guys, for Orlando, because Google is going to know what it's all about. And then you're going to reinforce it with the post. If you're posting, you're going to reinforce all that, right? From the images that you add and the way that we teach to add the images. So that's just my 2 cents on that. I think you're absolutely right. There's absolutely no need for location anymore.
That's awesome. Okay, cool, guys. Sorry I couldn't answer all the questions. We had a lot of engagement from you guys today, so we appreciate that for sure. We love it when you guys come and ask us a ton of questions. It gives us something to do. So, all right, guys, thanks everybody for being here. We do have a mastermind webinar Thursday, tomorrow, and we got a new member, Dave, who has just been incredibly engaged in our mastermind, asking a shit ton of questions. A lot of those will be answered tomorrow on the mastermind webinar. So, anyways, come join us over there, guys, and otherwise, we will see you next week on the next Hump Day Hangout. So thanks, Marco.
Bye, everyone.